Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations. I never say good morning or good evening because I don't know when you're going to watch it, and I want to be sensitive to your time. I'm also wearing some of my finer threads today. This jacket, made for me personally by my tailor, who comes to my office and measures me. He always says things like, have you lost weight? Your arms look bigger. I'm like, I love this guy. He makes me feel so good when he comes in. Of course, on Twitter, you can reach me, see me. I don't know what you do on Twitter. At SkiBucks, the number 1. You can call 800-344-2534. We manage money for a living here. We're a registered investment advisory firm. If you would like your money managed or advice on how to do that, you could call us. You can come in, you can talk to us. We could do Zoom calls. All that. I'm on WCRF normally on Thursday mornings, but I was on Tuesday this week because they're doing something. 103.3, Thursdays from 8 to 9. You can also get the Moody Radio App, and there's archives there. I don't know if anybody goes back and listens to what I've said in the past, but you can. You can also email Corey at epsf.com, all running below me, if you have questions that you'd like us to answer. We've got the next 5 or 6 podcasts are going to be subject matter from people that have texted in or, emailed in or called in and just had very kind of specific questions. We're thinking, well, that'd be a good podcast. So we're going to do that. We're also going to take a missions trip in June. You can't go on this one to the middle of the Amazon, but you can, if you'd like, support the trip financially. Any amount helps. You can go to nativosusa.org, and there's ways to give there. You can also find out about the trip and what we do. We're drilling freshwater wells in the jungle for villages that live along the river. We have a boat. It's got all the well digging equipment on it. We live on the boat, we sleep in hammocks. We do have flush toilets and showers. I encourage everybody to take a shower there every night because, man, do we stink. And if you want to know more about the trips, or if you'd like to go on a trip, you can call me and we can chat. We'll talk. Okay, that's what we'll do. So that's happening in June, the next trip. And we go every year, but if there was, let's say you had a church and you said, you know what, I'd like to take these 10 people on a trip. We could schedule a trip just for you. We don't take unaccompanied minors. It's just too much of a hassle. So if it's your youth group and everybody's 12, this is not the trip for you, unless their parents are going along with them. But I have vowed a vow, and if you read the Psalms, it says, when you vow a vow, do not be slow to keep your vow. And my vow is I'm not taking any unaccompanied minors anymore. It's just a hassle in Brazil. So, hey, look, the market's been choppy recently. It's choppy again today. If you're like me, you get up at about 3:30 and you look at the futures and you say, wow, it's up 500 or it's up 300. And then the market will open up, but then reality hits, usually right after Europe closes at 11:30, and the market falls off. Now, sometimes it'll catch its breath and it'll go back up again, but I think it's going to remain mostly choppy probably through the election season. Now, if you were at my workshop just a few weeks ago, you know that presidential election years are usually pretty good years to invest in. People make money, and they make money the year after. However, we don't always have Israel and Iran engaged in direct warfare, which we do right now. Now, it is true that Iran kind of telegraphed their move to launch all these missiles, and we were ready for them. France, England, us, and Israel stopped virtually every missile. What an average, what a batting average. You just kind of wonder about, is that possible that we could stop 99% of the missiles, the drones? Even Hamas was launching some missiles from inside Gaza. It just seems like an unlikely average. I would have been happy with a 60% average, but we had a 99% average. Seems a little staged to me. Anyway, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was. We'll never know. I doubt. But, one of the things about Israel that we've talked about is that the Netanyahu government has no love for the Joe Biden government. Joe Biden and President Obama were trying to interfere in Israel's elections to get Netanyahu voted out. Didn't work, and now there's not a lot of loyalty there. So they're going to do what they want, and they should do what they want. We didn't take advice from anybody after 9/11. We did what we thought was right. Know now that not everything we did was right, of course. A lot of what we did was wrong. There were no weapons of mass destruction, but we didn't take anybody's advice. We did what we thought was right, and that's what Israel should do right now. And I learned something this week. Not opposed to learning things. I love learning things. But I didn't know this. That I would have thought that there would be like 100, 200, 300, 500 million Jewish people. There's 15.6 million Jews in the world. That's it. It's a tiny fraction of the population. About 7.2 or so million Jews live here in America, about 7.5 in Israel, rest scattered around the world. I would have thought there'd be way more. And it's kind of odd. I didn't know this either about how much hatred there is for the Jewish people everywhere. I mean, you look at campuses, these Ivy League schools around the country right now, what they're doing is just crazy. What they're doing to the Jewish people, or trying to do it, they're a lot like the German Nazis back pre-World War II. This is exactly what they were doing to Jewish people then. Now they're not killing them. The Hamas is avowed haters of the Jews, and their stated mission of Hamas and of Iran is to eliminate the Jewish people. So that is happening. They're trying to do that actively. And these nitwits, these nincompoops and idiots on college campuses. Now, I know we have free speech here, supposedly, and even hate speech is protected speech. It is. That's America. So until you're ready to defend the very speech you hate the most, you do not understand free speech. So people are allowed to express hatred for other people, but when you start violating their rights, and you start doing things that violate other people's rights, it has gone beyond hate speech, and now it's a constitutional issue, and in many places they're doing that. So, I hate the fact that people burn the flag, but it's protected speech. I hate that. And then we also have a presidential election. Of course, the left is ginning up to burn down America again. I'm quite sure of it. And they'll have these organic protests where they had bricks on pallets on corners in organic fashion to throw at people and break windows. And they're not going to sit idly by and watch Donald Trump win the election. They're going to go back to the playbook that they did in 2018 and 19, which was light things on fire and create havoc, and then say, look at how much havoc follows him when they've created it. And we're not going to sit idly by and watch that. There's going to be, Kyle Rittenhouse is one of my heroes because he went and defended something. And there's going to be more of those people. We're not going to sit idly by. We're not going to let you burn the country down. This is America. We don't do those things. So the market's going to be a little choppy. And so here's what I like to do at times like that. At times like this is what I want to do. Sometimes I do nothing. I just sit and I evaluate. And that's okay. You don't have to be, the people that feel like they have to do something all the time, they're green in this business. That's how you can identify somebody who's green. They're new. They haven't been around very long, and they've never been through. If you falter in times of trouble, how small is your strength? That's Proverbs 24:10. Don't falter in times of trouble. Have your plan and work your plan. My first boss, Ray Sussel, who I credit with me still being in the business, used to say, have a plan and work your plan. So that means you got to have a plan. And sometimes the plan is to do nothing, and that's okay. You don't have to do a buy or a sell or an options contract every single day. It's okay to do nothing and kind of evaluate. The next thing that I do, number 2, everybody loves a good number 2, be selective in the worst hit sectors. So whatever that sector is, right now it's the chip sector. It's the AI race that we've been in for the last year and a half or so. That's really beat up. Well, there's some really great companies in there. man, I've got some research that I'm looking at right now. I'm thinking, this is awesome. Love this stuff. So dive in, take a deep dive into some of those worst beat up sectors and find out why. Maybe this is a sector I should be looking at. Do you think the AI run is over? No, it's just starting. Just starting. So another sign of somebody who's green is when things, stocks take a little hit, they're like, I got to get out. I got to sell out. I got to get out of this before it gets even worse. No, you might want to buy more. And that's the number 3 thing. Great companies on the worst possible news are compelling to me. Great companies on bad news are compelling to me. And the worse the news, the better. I like to use Boeing as an example of this. I'm watching this video today of that door that flew off that Boeing jet. They knew that there was a problem with the jet. It had recently been delivered, only been in service for 2 months. The O2 sensors, the oxygen sensors have been going off in the cockpit. There was a whistling noise in the plane, which means air is escaping. When you're driving in a car and somebody's got their window cracked at like a millimeter and you can hear that whistling and it's everybody's good. Would somebody find the whistling noise, please? That's what was happening. Air was escaping and it was whistling. And the plane was actually scheduled to come out of service later that night. And or maybe it was the next day and they were going to find out what was going on here and the door blew off. Well, our government is not going to let Boeing go out of business. We need Boeing in case we go to war. There's only 2 companies that make transatlantic jets for 190 people or 300 people, and that's Airbus, European-owned and subsidized, and Boeing. That's it. Canadian Regional Jet is not going to take over for Boeing. ERJ is not going to take over for Boeing. It's not happening. 737s are going nowhere. We're going to be flying them for years and years and years. They got a 20-year backlog on the 737-9. That's the one that was crashing before. The MAX. They call it the Dash 9 now. So look for really great companies on really bad news. Is Boeing a really great company right now? No. But they will be. They'll figure this out. Also, take some money off the winners. There are stocks that are winning right now in the midst of this downfall. Google is one. If you've got a pretty meaningful position in Google, it's okay to take some money off of that winner in the midst of losing and then redeploy some money into the losers. It's the Robin Hood theory of investing. Take from the winners and give to the losers. That's what you do. That's how you make money. You sell high and you buy low. Great companies on bad news. There's a winner in your portfolio. Maybe it's time to just trim that position. That's number 5. You don't have to be all in or all out. You could do incremental changes. That's how we really manage money here. It would be rare for you to wake up on a Friday and see your portfolio is totally different. In fact, I don't know if it's ever happened here. Now, we do come out of positions from time to time. That's just money management. So, but you're not going to see every one of your positions different. We don't have a weekly 100% turnover rate. We just don't. We have to be tax efficient for one thing in a lot of portfolios, and that means owning for at least a year before we sell, if it's possible. If it's not possible, if that stock, I'll give you an example. I owned Bed Bath & Beyond for a while. I bought it for the dividend, and I knew that a private equity firm was taking them over, and I knew who this firm was, and I liked them, and I figured they would turn it around, and they did. And then Bed Bath & Beyond got caught up in the meme stocks, and it went from a low price to a very high price. It had given me 8, 10, 12 years of return all in 1 year, and I took it. That's what you have to do sometimes, and sometimes you see those things. So it's okay to do that. Okay, so you're not in, you're not all out, you're incremental. That's how you manage money. That's how professionals do it, incremental. Except for when there's exception to the rule. If you know English, you know a lot of exceptions to the rule. Okay, so a listener question: how many rate cuts do I think are going to happen this year? Well, if you've listened to us for a while, you knew that last year we were saying the Fed should have raised rates in December and probably January, and there were going to be no rate cuts this year, or 1 or 2. And then the market kind of caught wind of that. That's part of the choppiness of the market. They're realizing, There's not going to be rate cuts this year. If there are, it might be one after the election. But right now, inflation is accelerating again. You can't cut rates into an accelerating inflation rate. Cannot do that. If they did that, it would be markedly political in nature, and they're not going to do that. So I think there's going to be no rate cuts this year. I think there's going to be rate cuts potentially next year with the Donald Trump administration, and he's got to be careful. You know, we're going to say, well, you got to cut budgets and slash budgets. You got to be careful with that because you could push us right into a recession. So yes, we have to cut budgets. Yes, we have to cut spending, but you have to do it incrementally. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. So you're going to have to be patient with cutting the budgets. You know, if you just started with 5% across the board ex defense, I think you'd be okay. So that's how it's going to go for a number of years. Budgets are going to get trimmed. We're going to push people out of government back in the private sector so that when times are bad, we could spend more and bring people in the government. Except for what we do now, and it's all governments, but especially this one, things get better. If things were so good, why do we have $100,000 or 100,000 new government employees last employment? What are 100,000 new government employees doing, and how are they messing up your life? But they are. I guarantee it they are. And the other part of this listener question is, why am I right so much? Why? How could it be? I was right about this. I was right about Vivek Ramaswamy when we started talking about him 2.5 years before anybody knew who this guy was. We're not right all the time, by the way. It's just happens with monotonous regularity. I'm going to admit that. But about this, about money management, about money, some of it is just natural. Some of this, it's not that hard to figure out. The market lives on hopium. We live in reality. They're hoping for something to happen. We're watching the reality on the ground and interpreting those facts. And we've been wrong before. We'll be wrong again. But I just got to be right 52% of the time. And I think that average is going to stay strong. I think it's closer to about 70, 80. Maybe I creep into the 90s every once in a while, but I don't want to be haughty about it because the market has a way of humbling people dramatically. So I don't want to be haughty. I want to be realistic. Over time, we make people money. In any one year, you might think I'm a moron, but over time, you will not. So if you listen long enough, if you invest with us long enough, you are going to make money and hopefully will outpace the market at some point. I am David Safransky, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.